Leave meeting. No. Says recording. Awesome. Yeah, and it's not muted now, so I think you're good. Is video on? I guess it is. It showed our faces. Yep. Ouch. All right. So, real quick, I made an agenda and I put dredging on there, but I think in reality, we probably should have just put lake health to start with. And then fish stocking, and then I put porta potties and then others. So let's entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Sure.
Second, okay, thanks. All right, well, then let's talk. Tom kind of took it on a big project to get some bids for and try to learn more about dredging. And then we can kind of move into the clean flow discussion. And then after that, I have some updates. So Tom, if you'd like to, Tom Selm would like to start.
Well, yeah, first of all, I didn't get quotes because nobody can quote anything until they know how much we have and have done a survey and all that. So I'd be interested to see where the board got with doing at least the survey for clean flow, because I think that will suffice for being able to get a dredging estimate. So anyway, I talked to 3 companies. Several people here have talked to some of those companies over the years because this has been going on for a long time. And then did research online. You know, the costs kind of range, or a pretty big range from say $15 a cubic yard if you just pump the stuff into the lake or dump it into the lake, to $50 to $90, probably the extreme end, taking it off site or taking it out of the lake. And then it depends on where that goes. If there's somewhere on site that it can go, it's certainly a lot cheaper. If we have to haul it, the further you haul it, the more expensive it is because the more trucks you have to move stuff. There's different methods mechanically to scoop it out, or use a big rake, either way to get it out. Hydraulic, where they stick a hose down and kind of grind it up and suck it up and put it into different methods to dewater it, whether you dewater it in a big basin, which takes up a lot of space. You put it in a kind of a big filter bag or tube. So you have to have a pretty flat area where you're doing it, and then it will sit there anywhere from a month to 3 months to dry before you remove it. So just looking at trying to figure out how big a cove would be that we would need to dredge out. At least at the end of my cove, which is cove 4, so the one that's this end of the lake, as you're driving down, what is that, Plantation? It's the one on the cove on the right hand side. Would probably be like probably around 150 feet by 200 feet or something, somewhere around that. That comes out to 100 feet by 250 feet and about 2 feet deep of sediment. You know, the sediment's probably somewhere between 2 to 3 feet, because Brian was using his depth finder or fish finder to get some depth, sediment depths. So they range from that. But if that kind of area and depth would be about 2,000 cubic yards, a little bit deeper would be about 3,000 cubic yards. So you're talking about 7 coves in the big lake. Similar, they're going to all be pretty similar sizes. 3 coves in Spring Lake, and then Summer Lake and Winter Lake. I don't know how far out you have to go for those lakes. Maybe Summer Lake, maybe the whole lake. Winter Lake probably not as bad. But using some of those kind of cubic yards and those kind of prices, the low end for Autumn Lake would be like $200,000. The high end would be probably $700,000. Spring Lake would be $100,000 to $300,000. And again, the low end is the ones where you're pumping it into the lake. You're keeping the stuff in the lake going into the deep end. Summer Lake if you did the entire thing, it's $500,000 to $1 million type of swags. Winters probably will be, if you did the entire lake, again, I wouldn't expect that would be the case. But if you did the entire lake, it's somewhere around $1 million to $2 million. So they're big, those are big numbers, and I think based on who I've talked to and what I've read, and Mark just had some work done that was even a bit higher cost than that on a cubic yard, and they just hauled the stuff right outside the gate, right to the kinder care or whatever is right outside the gate. So that's kind of the type of numbers we're talking about to do everything. I mean, that's easily a couple $1 million to $3 million. I mean, it could easily be a lot of money. If you do individual coves, well, each cove would be kind of a separate job, but if you have them come and do 1 or 2 coves and then leave and come and do another one the next year, would make the total cost be a little bit higher because you'd always have a setup and breakdown, as most any project would be. You know, one person talked to me about an area on site, and Tom, I'd probably like to talk to you about that sometime, below the spring dam. I guess you guys use that for maintenance. Clippings and stuff, I've heard.
Clippings, yeah, there's a lot down.
I don't know, if that would be an option, but that was one that somebody tossed out to me as well, for one site place.
Probably be something to be looked at by anybody doing the work and see what they think is feasible.
Yeah.
And useful.
So that's kind of what I've been able to gather up on kind of the cost estimates.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I
So,
read through. Can I ask a question?
yeah,
You said some of it is they dredge it from the shallow part, but then they'll dump it in the deep area?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
Well, if you
I wonder-
listen to the clean flow presentation, it kind of says you really don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know.
But
I mean, I wanted to make sure.
But people do that.
I think
There's
that's
companies
done pretty
done it.
commonly. It's done somewhat frequently if you have a deep enough lake.
Yeah.
I don't know that summer and winter lakes are deep enough to
No.
do that.
I would guess not.
You know,
Maybe-
and so-
maybe an outside chance, but yeah. For summer lake and winter lake, I didn't use those. I assume not. So the 500 to $1 million would be all hauling.
I just recently thought of another potential concern. I'm gonna try to catch anybody's hair on fire, but you know what? Do we have an issue with the content of that sediment? I mean, does the EPA or anybody have to test it? Because the reason I bring that up is they came and tested our yard for lead. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of lead in this soil here, but
I
if
think
we
it was brought in, wasn't it?
if we found out there was lead in the sediment, I don't know that we'd be able to move it.
So each of them said there is some potentially permitting requirements to be done, and potentially sampling to be done. It could be an issue. But you know, the thing was to start is to go out and do a survey. If they did the survey, it's like a $10,000 item, and they're going around and essentially the simple way is you take a long PVC pipe, you stick it down till you hit the top of the sediment. That's the depth of your lake, your water depth. Then you push it down to the bottom of the lake, and that'll give you the depth of your sediment. You can get, you know, depending samples and find out. So yes, if we have a problem, you know, some kind of heavy metal or anything.
And I don't know if that's a
Yes,
realistic
real-
concern or not. I just thought of it the other day when I was looking through some stuff I had and they tested on my yard for lead.
Yeah.
It was
that's
negative,
everybody.
But so would they all negative is it?
Oh, no, there was, when I lived on Easy Street, there were people that got their yard moved out, cleaned out
dug
by
it
the
out.
EPA, and then
Would they clean
Then-
up the lake?
dirt all over again.
Would the EPA take care of the lake?
Hey, that's a great
Well,
idea.
Yeah, but wasn't the top dirt around here brought in? That's why.
They have hundreds of lots that, literally hundreds and hundreds, they were out here for years and years, digging people's yards up 2 feet down, bringing new soil in. So right now, if you have soil that you build a house, you want to bring topsoil in, it has to be certified lead-free.
Right.
And there's only 2 places around in Jefferson County that has it. So.
Huh,
So I'm not sure if that would be in the lake, because the lake's been around for a while. But
it's there.
never actually had to test it.
Well, there's no soil brought into the lake, it was dug out, the contaminated soil was brought into the subdivision.
Yeah, but everything, but I mean, part of the sediment is from runoff from the surrounding area, and as you remove the trees and grass and whatnot, then you get more soil that runs into the lake. It may be an unrealistic concern. It popped into my head the other day and I thought,
Makes sense?
man, I don't know if we want to know what's in that. Like, we have healthy fish. I mean, we don't have,
Not one over there.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Free fish.
Are they lead free?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Tom did a lot of work and thank you for doing that. But I mean, I think the bottom line is dredging would be very costly,
I mean.
very, very costly.
Yeah, looking at your numbers here, on the low end, about 1.8 million, and then on the high end, about 5 million. Or 4 million.
Yeah, Winter Lake, I would doubt it's 100%. Have to dredge the entire lake.
Yeah.
Might as well cut the dam and dig it out, if you're gonna spend that much.
Yeah.
You might as well just cut the dam
Oh.
and dig it out with a dozer if you're gonna spend that much.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that right? Yeah.
I mean, dozers works at what, $100, $120 an hour?
I don't know. Well, I guess we should have started
Yeah,
this conversation with, my concern is I think our lakes are dying, but they're becoming sterile. But I remember as a young boy, my father told me every man-made body of water is born with a death sentence. They're all going to fill in. That's just the way it is. And ours have been doing this for 40 years and they're there. And I think we need that clean flow presentation was very compelling and made me think even more that we have to do something. It doesn't have to be today, but we need to look at the law. I mean, ask yourself why you're here. Why did you move to this area instead of 5 miles down the road? It's because of the lake, right? Or unless you found the perfect house or whatever. But most of us moved here because we have a lake, and we don't have much if we don't have lakes, and we have a few lakes that I think are in serious trouble or are in more trouble than a couple of the others. So that's why we started this journey. I should have started this conversation with that. So, and then we had clean flow. I unfortunately was not here. I was out of town.
And I took
But
notes.
if you could give us just a 50,000 foot, I thought the video was very compelling. And so if you would maybe
Sure.
run over it for the people who weren't. able to
Sure,
see it.
basically clean flow water purification, they use aeration equipment that they put in the lake. There's so many of them based off of each acre of water under the ground, with pumping stations that would be based around each one of the lakes. There would be shout out to the oxygenation systems. It bubbles and takes the sludge and muck that's on the bottom, gets it moving, and it looks like I don't know, sounded to me like amoebas, and then from there you got plankton that eats that, which there's little fish that eat the plankton, and then big fish eat that. And it keeps that bottom circulating continuously until there's somewhere between 4 to 6 inches per year of depth we keep gaining all throughout the lake. So, and it's an ongoing thing. It sounds like it's a 5-year project, at least. After that,
I
we would
think
do our own thing, and I think that's probably them putting enzymes in to help the lake also, not chemicals, but enzymes.
I'm not convinced it's enzymes. I think it may be microbes. They put microbes in there that digest the muck. So
What?
So this term eutrophication kept coming up, and so I've done some research on it. And eutrophication is basically, it's a vicious cycle where the sunlight penetrates the water and gets down to the base, then rooted plants and blue-green algae, which is bad algae, grows, and it can outcompete other plants and other algae, and they die every year when it turns cold out and they sink to the bottom. And then there's more organic matter for next year's process, for the vicious cycle to start back over. And as the lake gets shallower, more and more sunlight, you have a greater surface area that sunlight penetrates to, and it's just a vicious cycle, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And that's like my father told me, every lake is born with a death sentence, and I think that's what we're going through. This is not actually new. I guess this has been going on for a while, and companies doing this aeration. What they do is they pump air into the water because the phosphorus levels and the dissolved oxygen levels at the lower levels, how lakes turn over every year, twice a year, and they can't turn over because of the oxygen and the temperatures. And therefore we just have this vicious, it's just an ongoing problem. And that's what CleanFlow and other systems try to do, is turn the lake over, add dissolved oxygen to it, and put these microbes in, which actually digest all of that muck, for lack of a better term, sediment. And these microbes compete with the blue-green algae and try to reduce your HAB, harmful algae
harmful algae
blooms, right? And
Yeah.
so it's an interesting process. I think, and I'm very compelled by this, the CleanFlow presentation, but very, very expensive. They wanted $7,500 or more just to do an evaluation.
But that's the price anybody's gonna charge to come out
Yeah.
and do the survey.
Yeah, so just an update, late last week, I heard of there's another lake, Lake Sherwood, which some of you guys know, it's like, I want to say by Forestell, south of 70, is that kind of where
Martinsville.
where is it?
Martinsville.
Is it that far south? I've only been there a couple of times and I
Same
couldn't,
builder that did this one.
what?
Same builder that did this one.
Is it?
So I talked to their Lakes and Beaches guy, and they're about a year ahead of us on this whole process, and they got different bids. And one of them was
Bids for bio treatment or?
similar treatment where,
Okay.
well, they'll do chemical treatments, they'll do fish stocking, they'll do mapping. They have a spectrum of different things that this lake management company did. I spoke with him. Mike got me the contact. I got a hold of him on Thursday, and he was going to get me a bid Friday or today, and I haven't heard back from him, but they'll do a similar process, and they're only 45 minutes away. And it's not, where CleanFlow said, we want to do the entire complex at once. This company was like, well, you could maybe decide where you have the biggest issue, and then maybe continue to treat some of your other lakes with chemicals, and then see how this works. And so I think that's something we need to seriously consider, because
So Sherwood's using them now?
no, Sherwood got a bid from them and from Solitude. And so we had a less than pleasant parting with Solitude, but if we need to mend that.
Is that the one out of Tennessee?
Solitude has a ton of information out on the website
Yeah.
on pretty much.
I guess the point I'm making is there are, I was ready to move forward with CleanFlow and do this, but they only wanted to do it if they could do the entire complex at once, and I'm.
No, they didn't
No,
say that.
no.
They said they.
Oh, that's what the impression I got from.
It would be less expensive to do it all at once, basically, is what I think it came down to. I think by coming in and doing all 4 lakes, they're here, get it done. That was his opinion, but they could stage it if need be.
Yeah, I mean, it's travel time for him from Effingham. seemed like.
Right.
Well, they were gonna
Well,
piggyback us on.
They happen to be in
on
FEQ.
Cuba.
Actually. So I think, I mean, so I think we have to consider this. Do we have time to really get this process started yet this year? I don't know. Do we want to, I don't want to call it an emotional decision, but do we want to make this decision to, yeah, let's just go forward and get something done, even if it's wrong? I kind of wonder.
Well, I thought we had to get bids regardless, because they're not the only company that does.
Right.
Bio dredging, if you will.
Right.
And
so
that's the only way you're gonna hold them honest to a decent number as well. Is get.
Yeah, and so I think,
there's-
maybe we.
So
the
I guess
issue
the
is
board did
when-
not approve spending $7,600.
No,
on
the
survey,
board-
because the survey will help us regardless of who we go with, because somebody has to do it.
Yeah, no, I think the board will go for us doing that but I just don't want to spend the community's money the wrong way. I mean, do we really feel like that we're going to get the information that we need and it's going to be useful? Is it proprietary? Is it our information, or is it Clean Flow's information?
Well, if they're doing it for us, it's our information.
And then we need to find out what the other places, which.
Yeah.
And who is the other bio dredging company?
Lake Management,
I found a couple on.
Randy Kramer. I mean, I spoke with him for an hour. He's full of information. And the other thing is they do chemicals too, and they treat golf courses. So I also met with Dave Tucker, and they use algicides already. So they're not too worried about algae, using things to kill algae. Their big concern is herbicides, and Lake Management says they have chemicals they will use they treat golf courses and use chemicals that will work there. And so, of course, I don't think we would do anything like that without getting the blessing of the golf course, but that's the reason I didn't move forward with Clean Flow. I just kind of wanted to discuss this before I say, yeah, let's do this.
When do we meet next with, the conservation department?
I think it's the 12th.
So
We have a
couple days.
discussion
a
with
week or so.
Maybe next Tuesday. Yeah.
I would be interested in seeing what they have, if they can recommend these guys, or if they know of them, or.
I spoke with him about John Schulte. I spoke with him about that, and he's very interested in the system, but he has no knowledge of it whatsoever, unfortunately. So, I mean, I guess we have to make a decision. Do we want to, and we don't have to make it today. Again, the last thing I want to do is say, let's do this and find out later that, oh, maybe that wasn't the right thing for us to do. I think we need to do something, but it's not a burning platform. I think it's wonderful that we've learned about this system, but I think we need to learn more about it before we.
Well, you talked about this Lake Management, Randy
Kramer.
Kramer. Would he be willing to put out a bid to basically do the same thing that Clean Flow is talking
Yeah,
about
he's
doing?
preparing us a bid.
Okay. all right.
And I asked him to break it down into just Spring Lake and then just winter and summer lakes for the aeration, the bio dredging, if we can use that term. I like that term. I don't know if it's a real word or not, but
If you
bio-
Google it, people use it.
It is
Uh,
enzymatic digestion or bio dredging with enzymes.
Yes. See, but I think it's microbes, not enzymes, but he used enzymes in his presentation. Nonetheless,
I read that Solitude has a big write-up on bio dredging as well, and they talk about microbes and enzymes both.
Okay.
in it, from what I recall. So
anyway, I think,
it wasn't clear to me though if Solitude did it themselves, but they had a big write-up. I know that. There were, I think, 2 other companies when I Googled bio dredging that came up that do it. And then I saw Clean Flow. Some of the oxygenation seemed to be different, whereas Clean Flow made it sound like it was a big deal how they did it with the air at the bottom of the lake. You know, a lot of oxygen, you know, a lot of ponds are oxygen, you know,
Well, those
oxygenated, which is the fountain.
Fountains don't do it. You have to go to the
And-
bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Solitude, from what I can remember. Braintree's had a problem with them and the board had a problem with them and didn't want to deal with them. And, you know, kind of just slammed the door on them. And so it's like, didn't even want to look at them because
Yeah.
supposedly they didn't show up a couple times, but I heard it was only once and then they raised their price.
Yeah, what?
They
yeah.
didn't tell us.
There's some bad blood there, so,
Yeah.
but there's
So
other companies, and so that, I mean, the point I was making is, I said, let's not throw 76, if that's what we want to do, we can do that, but I think we ought to wait to get a bid from, Lake Management before we pull the trigger on,
Mhm.
on Biosys, at least for, you know, the mapping and whatnot, and see if maybe we start, I mean, these lakes have been here for 40 years. I don't think we have to do something today, but I think the sooner we do it, the better.
Sure.
You know, and
Well, it'd be nice to enter into a final solution rather than putting a Band-Aid on it every year and.
oh, yeah, we have to. I mean, our lakes, we're gonna lose them otherwise if we don't do something. So I kind of think that we should just kind of hold off until we hear from Lake Management. Does that seem reasonable to you guys? I mean,
Did they give us a date on when they could give us a bid?
Lake Management? Well, he had hoped to get it to me Friday or today. So I mean.
so what exactly is he bidding on, though? I mean,
Well,
that's-
he's gonna give me a bid for chemical treatment. Like we've been getting, for all 4 lakes. So he will treat Spring Lake as well. And we'll have to make sure that Dave Tucker would be okay with the use of the chemicals, but that would be, we could get Spring Lake treated. Which I think help the community satisfaction a
Are we
lot.
just treating the algae and the plant life,
Yes.
but we're not doing anything with the muck?
Well, that, again, yes, for this year, but I think long-term, we have to do something. We have to bio dredge, mechanical dredge, hydraulic dredge, whatever. We have to do something so we don't lose our lakes, but you know, maybe we bite off a little bit at a time, you know? And so I think we need to learn more before that's why I didn't tell we didn't call Biosys and tell them, yeah, let's move forward, because if we find out that somebody else does the same thing for a lot less money, or we can do some of it ourselves, then we'd be foolish to spend the.
Yeah, we can do it, some of it ourselves. The full mapping that I think Clean Flow has, no, that'd be hard to do. Because
They probably have a computer program that, you know, that gives you a nice map and everything, but I don't know what we can do. I don't know what they need. Like, you know, I thought about this. Do you really need to know how deep the muck is? Because if you can set a standard and say Spring Lake, obviously it's easy because the lake flows up, so the level stays pretty constant. You can say, okay, this is the normal pool, if you will. And if the depth is 2 feet, and then a year from now, it's 2.5 feet, doesn't really matter how deep the muck is if the lake is getting deeper. You know what I mean? I don't know that having the knowledge of how deep, how thick the muck is all that important. I'm kind of wrestling with that.
Yeah, just,
But I mean, if the lake's getting deeper, which is what we want.
He calls it a biometric scan, I think.
Right.
Bathymetric.
Bathymetric,
Bathymetric scan.
BATHY, yeah.
yeah, they have to do the scan so that they can then model where they put their diffusers. How many and where they're at.
And you said the same thing for dredging, but they wouldn't put any diffusers.
No,
They're just digging.
the dredging is a bit more crude method to figure it out, and we could probably do that, because all you're gonna, what would be nice, why that would work so well for us is dredging, you're gonna say, I want the lake to be back to 6 foot. And they're gonna dredge out to that level and stop. There's still gonna be sediment in the lake because you're not going to just
Right.
continue digging.
There's always
The
gonna be
entire
sediment in the lake, right?
But you're gonna go to some, you're gonna go to some level, and that's where you start in the back of the cove, and you go to that, and that's where you stop. And if the sediment depth, then that's how much you're gonna clean out. They gotta know how much stuff they're going to remove.
Okay,
So that's why, but you could go in and like I said, you can do it with the pole and go out to there and say, well, this cove is roughly this and that's what.
and here's how thick it is.
But I doubt they're gonna do a lump sum bid, so it's probably gonna, when they start doing it, it's gonna depend on actually what they get.
Which would be the depth.
Yeah, going to, again, say if you go to 6 foot, because that's kind of where the light stops, but
And where.
4 foot's deep enough to get a boat anywhere, that's ultimately
Yeah.
what people want is. to get-
And is that where the bath meter would come in, I guess?
Yeah,
Is it
because
to
his-
say, here's the actual ground and here's this much muck.
So his scans that he showed in those pictures will show the entire depth of the lake everywhere. Show you where the holes are, how the lake runs out.
Hmm.
That's what the diagrams all showed in the presentation.
Well, then let's do let's wait till I hear back from Lake Management. And then I'm really hesitant to contact Solitude because I wasn't part of it. I know there was some really bad,
There was a couple other,
really bad blood, wasn't there? Yeah, like don't call them. Okay, don't call them. That's what I've heard from a few people. Let's just steer clear of them. So I don't know if there's another company or not.
yeah, there were probably 2 others that I saw listed. I'll look again and send them out.
Okay, yeah, if you'll get that, or I'll try to find them and we'll contact them and see. In the meantime, I think we need to decide. I also think that we should see what Lake Management says. If they have chemicals, then they'll treat Spring Lake. And they said they have capacity to take us on as a client, as a customer this year. Then, I mean, I truly think we should think about doing a partial treatment, let's treat chemically in maybe Spring Lake and Autumn Lake and look at winter, summer for this potential other bio dredging.
Yeah, if we're doing just
Or-
lake treatment company, don't we need to get 3 bids in that?
Yeah, we have more than 3 bids already. We have
Right.
lots of bids.
Because one of the companies I talked to that's in Cedar Hill does lake treatment as well. I mentioned that.
Right, there's heaps of them and we've heard from
I
2 or
seem
3.
to hear meetings before that sound like nobody in the area wants to treat lakes, and we couldn't find companies to treat lakes. Now,
I don't know about that because I wasn't.
when we were during the whole Solitude thing, that seemed like it sounded like that was.
I think there was some resistance to treating Spring Lake.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I don't.
But
agree
this
with.
company says, hey, we'll treat Spring Lake, we will treat a golf course lake, irrigation lake. And so I think, here's what, after hearing this, what I think we should do is wait till we hear from Lake Management. And if they say we can use these chemicals and treat Spring Lake, then we should treat Spring Lake, as long as Dave Tucker is okay, and Justin are good with it. Then let's do that and clear up Spring Lake a little bit. And then we think about winter and summer lakes for potentially for the bio dredging. And we would probably treat Autumn Lake. Because we're gonna have to decide in the next month. We're gonna have to decide pretty quickly here. We want to be on somebody's books.
But isn't the spraying gonna make it the muck worse though?
What's that?
Isn't the spraying gonna make the muck worse?
Yeah, but it's been doing it for 40 years. I don't think that one more year of, I would rather make a good decision
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, I mean, anywhere we use chemicals, it's gonna continue, it's the vicious cycle, but I think I would rather treat for one more year than to go all in on one of these other systems, which we're not gonna have an immediate, we're not gonna have an
No.
immediate,
No.
it's what you say at Indian, it's 5 years for them to see a big difference. So while I'd rather we didn't put another chemical in any one of the lakes, I think the bottom line is we're gonna have to.
Well, each year you're gonna get 4 to 6 inches, but
Yeah,
over
it's not
5
5,
years,
yeah.
you've got probably 5 feet or so, 6
Right.
feet, you know.
But we're not gonna get an immediate response. We're probably gonna have to pour some chemicals into our lakes this year. I think. Even if we had started this process 6 months ago, I still think we'd probably have to use some chemicals. Plus, we don't know if we would be able to afford any type of dredging.
What's the
but-
priority, do we have what the priority is of the lakes, which lakes? If we had to go 1, 2, 3, 4 order, which lakes?
Well, I think we have to wait till we get the mapping done, but I would say that, you know, I would say that I'm not a lake biologist, but I would think that winter and summer are the biggest risk of silting in and dying if we don't do something. I don't know which ones, anybody know which one's deeper or shallower?
The.
Summer lakes are
The
down.
two lakes is deeper.
It was like 8 foot when I was out there this winter. It was,
Which one, summer?
The, upper one.
Yeah, the top one.
Yeah, I walked all the way out there on ice and had my scanner.
And now it's pouring into, some of the top one and
But it
winter.
was deep, like.
I get 'em
once you go-
confused
once you go
every time.
Below the spillway, it was like 14 foot out there, it was pretty deep on the lower one there. That was just on the spillway side, now you go to the dam side, it was over 20 foot, it's deep, I didn't think it was that deep. It's deep
On winter.
Well,
on winter.
So winter's the lower one that was
Yes.
deeper.
It was deep, yeah.
Summer was
Summer
more
was
like
8
around,
foot, 8 foot.
well, summer's the catch basin for all that water before it gets to winter, because you know, the rest of the lakes aren't in a chain, but summer feeds into winter.
Right.
Well,
Um,
then, yeah, definitely don't need to do more than probably 50% or 25 to 30% of the lake.
Yeah, because that's something.
I mean, if it's 14 to 20 foot deep. You don't need to
yeah,
be dredging. all that.
I think probably, how does this sound? We wait to hear from Lake Management. If they have chemicals that Dave Tucker will approve, then maybe we treat spring and autumn lakes with chemicals. And we get a bid on what the cost would be for treating winter, summer. I mean, it's no matter which one we're gonna do, it's gonna be expensive, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to pay for it.
But if we treat the smaller lake, that's obviously gonna be least expensive, right? Just because of the.
Well, the guy from Clean Flow said that lake, you know, I think it's total gallons, not cubic, it's
Yeah.
not surface area, but
Well, what I'm thinking is if we pick one lake as an example, and if we got good results off that one lake, then we would have something to sell to the folks saying, this is working, here's, you know, you can
Yeah.
take a look at it, and here's what it's gonna cost to finish the project.
I had talked to him about that and using Summer Lake as a prototype. To show everybody how well it could work, and he said, yeah, you could do that if we.
the
wanted to.
Biosys guy said that?
Yeah,
All right,
so, I mean, that makes sense. Proof of concept type environment, so.
well, let me hear back from Lake Management and then we'll decide if we're gonna do the Biosys, or if Lake Management does mapping, let's see what they would charge us and then I do think we should get, you guys good with getting the information from Lake Management about treating Spring Lake chemically? I mean, again, I would rather not pour another chemical into any one of our lakes, but I, you know, we may have to for a short time until we can get our head wrapped around exactly what we're buying as far as bio dredging.
So,
Makes sense.
so let's say we hold off, get information from Lake Management. Well, that's 2 companies. Do we need 3? And who would that be? And then,
Yeah.
you know, and then, you know, we're talking about pulling the trigger at some date in the future. You know, what's the goal? When? Or is it just next year? I mean,
No, I mean, I think we have to start the process this year, whether or not we get, you know, and I don't think unlike chemicals, you have to start them in April. That's why I think we need to move forward with doing something. You need to start those when the water
Sure.
temperature gets up. But bio dredging, I don't think that there's a window of opportunity. I think we can say, yeah, we want to do this, and it probably is somewhat dependent on, I think the guy from Clean Flow said that they saw a depth reduction or, you know, a depth increase summer and winter, but all four seasons, not summer and winter lakes, but all four year round. It was just much greater in the summer than the winter.
Mhm.
And so I don't think it's like, okay, we have to start this today. You know what I mean? And I just don't want to move forward without feeling that we know what we're getting and what to expect.
I agree, although where I'm gonna disagree is that you've got folks who live like Mark. Where it's having a hard time getting this boat out, or
Right.
John Willett, who, when we were talking, he's going, yeah, it's water's down 2 feet, I can't get my boat out.
I live on the main
People
channel. I
open
can't
it.
get my boat off the lift right now.
Yeah, so.
Not
So,
because of dredging problem.
Like.
The water is just so low.
well, that's water, but yeah,
18 inches.
but I don't know, is the dredging part of that problem too? I mean, I don't know, I mean.
Sure, at the very back of the coves.
I mean, can you get your boat out right now? It was in the, you got the blue noodles in front of yours, don't you?
Yeah.
So I fished it and it's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, the reason why we can is because when they were building the slip, they went 2 feet down to the bedrock and removed that, so
Right.
we gained 2 feet.
Right. But out in that whole, like, you know, that flat out there, it's only 2 foot.
Yeah,
And it was that full pool because it was going over, it
yeah,
was going over yesterday.
yeah,
So that's as full as it gets.
yeah, it's about as full as it gets right now, I mean, well, it's normal.
It's normal, yeah.
Yeah.
Spring, yeah. We need spring in our lake.
We need a water, we need a constant water source in all of our lakes.
Just race.
I mean, Spring Lake is running over in the
Yeah,
drain,
it's fed by spring.
yeah.
Lake's waiting for rain.
Yeah, that's why I kind of feel like we should, much as I don't want to, if there's chemicals that Dave Tucker will approve, let's clean up Spring Lake. And maybe, who knows, maybe this bio dredging is, we can afford it. I don't know. We don't know, but I don't think we can wait until we get the mapping back and then all the bids and stuff. We have to make a decision. Chemical.
We don't have money, so we're not gonna, we can't afford anything. And what
Well,
Indian Lake did is they developed, I think it was a LLC and people funded it.
That's what I'm trying to do.
yeah,
So we need to figure out how, we're gonna have to figure out how to be able to get money in here from people that wanna pay money, because there's people in the end of, some of the end of the coves that wanna pay to dredge out the coves. Because they're the ones that will benefit the most, so, and they're stuck.
Well-
One other little item just that you brought up just a moment ago, and that is taking this to Tucker and having Tucker approve any chemicals. Is that gonna be in writing from Tucker that he's not gonna come and sue us? Can we get it in writing from Tucker that he's not gonna come and sue us?
yeah, we'd have to have,
I mean, just
I don't know if
because of
he'll,
the problems we've had in the past.
I don't know if he'll write
Right.
that he's not gonna sue us, but if we say, do you approve the use of these chemicals in Spring Lake in order for us to, you know, control the algae and the weed grow, the aquatic vegetation, and he approves it?
How? You're gonna shake your hand, you're just gonna go, oh, sure, go do it, or
Uh,
is he gonna put it down on paper? I don't
Yeah,
have
we'll
a
do it
problem with this, it's
electronically or
got
s-
his name,
Yeah, we'll do it electronically or something.
okay, cause that is what has kind of put us in the scenario of not having enough money and, you know, Braintree just having problems because of lawsuits, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Is Spring Lake, is it just the algae that you are concerned about or the weeds or?
I've got weeds by my place, but I'm not all that worried. I mean,
Right,
I
I
went
mean-
out and bought myself one of these rakes you throw out in water and cut them down and rake them in, you know, bring them in. Let 'em dry out on
Does
the
it grow
ground.
pretty thick back there in the back on the flat?
Not really, when
Right.
we had a lot of weeds when we moved there, and very frankly, we just got the grandkids down, we pulled them out, you gotta get them by the roots, because cutting them off, they'll just grow
And
right
you're,
back.
and you're talking about the ones that are about as big as your
Yeah.
pinky, yeah.
Right.
And those seem like they're spotty through there, you know,
Yeah.
they're not,
We
They're
pulled
heavy
them
down
off
by the dam.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure,
But again, you know, you don't want to get rid of all of it,
right?
because it provides habitat for the smaller fish.
And it's a filter, so.
Right.
Taking all the nutrients before it gets to further down a little bit.
Yeah, the conservation guy said you want about 30% of your shoreline with
That's
aquatic.
probably
I'd
what we
say
got.
that's
right now.
about what it is.
I don't know if he meant underwater weeds though,
Because
the
I mean-
naiad.
I didn't see hardly any out there this weekend underneath the water. There was a stubble that was coming up, you know, on the dam here, there, but as far as like underneath there, I didn't see shit.
Well, that's.
Well, I don't think anything's growing. I mean, we don't have, we
But I
could,
went out the week before and it was all still in Autumn Lake. It's still all.
I don't think we have any in front of ours, but in the summertime,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's a forest.
It's pretty thick, pretty fast.
Yeah,
And that stuff grows
Yeah,
and then
it gets 6 foot tall under the water. You can see
Yeah,
it.
it grows out and up, it seems
Yeah.
like.
well, it sounds like if regardless of where we get them, well, maybe not. We get the mapping done, it's gonna be information that probably any company could use. Maybe.
Right.
I guess we don't know that, but I'll ask. I know that Lake Sherwood, they actually had theirs done by the University of Missouri, Rolla.
Nice.
Somebody was doing a study, a grad student was doing a study, and that's how they got it done. I think they paid for room and board and that was it, or transport, their travel or something. I was like, well, where do we get into that?
You
program?
mentioned lake management stocks fish as well, so what's their practice with versus chemicals and versus grass carp or both, or what they?
Well, I didn't speak to him about that, but when we talked to the Department of Conservation, that was the one he said, I'm gonna gather more information and come back with you guys with more recommendations, but he said, the one thing I would do is get grass carp and put them in those lakes. And so I
Yeah,
think,
they're only good between 2 and 5 years, that's when they're most productive, and then it drops off precipitously.
and having
So you
said
need to
that,
restock every year, some of them.
every year, or every other year, he said, get on a cyclical grass carp, and people who, a couple that was here, and I don't know their name, they said, for years we had grass carp here and we didn't have as big of a problem. And so, if we can stop the vegetation, then we have less eutrophication, we put a stop to it. So I think that's probably what we should do is this year, we have money for fish stocking. There was no fish stocking done last year that I can find anywhere on record. So I think we should, and the part of the conservation agent, I think we should spend our money on grass carp this year.
Absolutely.
We should get grass carp for every lake.
I second it.
If we can afford them. I think you did an analysis or somebody.
Yeah, I did a.
Something that
Yeah.
he said 2 to 4, so
It was
maybe we'll do
reasonable. I don't know if
3.
you did another estimate or something. I just took a price off the internet, so I don't know how.
So what would the process be? Since lake management will do stocking of fish, is that something else we could find out from them and then find a couple other organizations that can stock fish?
I think
also?
Brian knows a couple, he's
Oh, do you?
he's stocked lakes before through these companies. And so maybe we ask
They sell fish in the ocean at once, we're in pretty good stuff. So,
with Curryville,
Nemo.
Nemo. So why don't we get a bid from, let's find out what Nemo and Curryville charge for.
You can look it up online, I mean, it's right there, I can
Okay.
call them to see if they could get a delivered price, I
Yeah.
call them tomorrow and see what.
And let's see what lake management says and let's see if we have enough money to get 3 grass carp per acre for all the fish. And they'll survive in just a few feet of water. And it's compatible with the bio dredging.
Right,
We've got some carp in the spring. I don't know if they're grass carp or not, but they come up into the shallows and
Yep.
they're about that long.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the conservation agent said they feed very aggressively for 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. Once they reach full size, then they're their activity declines, and so, I mean,
So the conservation agent said we need how many grass carp per acre?
2 to 4.
I think
Two
he
to
said
four,
2
so
to
there's
4.
202 acres with all the lakes roughly,
Yeah.
based off of the meeting that we had, okay? And the sizes of the lake, so. So if you, what's that, divided or. About 808 fish or.
That's 4.
Or you do 2 or?
Yeah, that's 4.
Yeah.
2 would be half that,
Yeah.
about 400.
So 600, either 4, 6, or 800
Yeah,
fish.
something like that. I mean, if
And
you just run the numbers,
What,
right?
you remember what they,
I
were-
thought it was
I just
10.
figured 200 acres.
Does that sound right?
I think they were 10 or
I'm gonna
12.
look on Nemo.
200 acres. 2 per acre, 400, right? So,
I
Yeah,
put
did
it,
doing 3 when that number I gave.
yeah.
What was the type, Kenton, the type of grass carp we want that does not reproduce and begins with?
Oh, triploid. So diploid, instead of being diploid, 2 chromes, you want triploid ones that have 3, and they're sterile. And so, yeah, we gotta make sure we're getting triploid, because I don't know where does the runoff go from Spring or Autumn Lake? Does that go down to the river? Where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes eventually to the,
Big River?
and that goes to Mississippi eventually, so. Yeah, I don't think we wanna create,
Merrimack and then Mississippi.
we don't wanna create problems downstream, so. We ought to try, let's see,
are you gonna want flying carp? No.
no, Asian
There's
carp.
plenty of those, there's plenty of those in the Merrimack River
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, don't want that.
All right, so we'll get some bids on delivered fish, and we'll move forward with that. However much we can afford, I asked John Phillip to put money in the budget. I'm not sure if it got approved or not, I'll find out. And then
They stock
And what-
any timers or the time that they,
Stock anytime you want.
you can put grass carp in just about not in the winter, but any other time, that what the guy told us. And I think we spend all of our money on grass carp this year. Thoughts? I mean, it'd be nice to throw some more largemouth in there or
Oh.
crap, but.
No.
He's trying to give me
going.
Take them out. Everybody that catch
Well, they're all
bass, take them.
stunted because
Yeah.
they,
They don't have any food anymore.
Right.
John said take, for every 5 you catch, keep 3.
100 to 200 pounds per acre that need to be taken out.
Of bass?
Every year.
What about
Every
the,
year.
what about
Have
the
to take bass
bluegill,
out.
no, those warmouth
You're gonna do.
or catfish? I mean,
You need to put an apex predator there to take care of it, because I mean, we're not gonna be able to catch all these fish.
okay. Well, let's wait till they tell us that.
Okay.
But I mean, are you guys good with, anybody agree with making a recommendation, or I think we
all
can
for it.
just do that. Because it's a budgeted item, as long as we, but anything over, is it $2,500? I think we have to get the board approval, so. I'll entertain a motion that we propose to the board that we spend the, however much is in the budget, up to 3 fish per acre for every pond.
So for 3 fish per acre, comes in right under 10,000.
I asked John for
Or
10,000.
808.
Okay, that's 4 then.
How much
808
per
is
fish?
4.
Okay,
Are those triploid though?
Pretty sure Nemo.
Are we gonna have a delivery
Distributes.
charge?
I'm not sure I have to call, but I'm pretty sure Nemo distributes all over the state, and then they sell them, so you're kind of cutting out the middleman going with Nemo.
Okay, my only suggestion would be, let's see what Lake Management would sell them
Yeah.
for too, because if we can go to one company and get our chemicals and our fish, why not develop a relationship with them?
Right.
And maybe we do bio dredging with them, maybe we don't, I don't
And
know.
did you get an estimate from Curryville Fisheries?
I didn't know, I talked to the guy, but he hasn't sent me any numbers. His father ran it for a number of years.
Yeah, there's like.
And
a
he just-
son-
The son just took it over.
Right.
And so we chatted for a while, but he didn't give me any numbers. Okay, so
Yeah, it's 7K for 3 per acre.
right, so I guess to do it appropriately, we need a motion and a second, and
I'll make the motion.
Second.
all those in favor, all right, I'll take that to the board. And then, porta potties, I know we have, I'm not sure exactly how many we have. I think there's 5. Is that right? I know there's a handicap accessible one or wheelchair accessible one at the beach. And I think there's 2 others there. There's one at the boat ramp and there's one at the pavilion.
Did they
Right.
replace the one at the beach that got hurt down or blown up?
They take them all away every fall.
It was,
Tom, is that
was
right?
blown up.
Is there more? Is there another one somewhere?
There's not any right now, it is 5.
5 is what we normally,
Pavilion, 1 at each boat ramps, the handicap and 1 regular at the beach, and we get an extra one for the holidays. And then we get one
oh, we get an extra.
for spring month too. The other boat ramp, at the boat ramp, yeah, so it's 5.
There's one at the boat ramp at Autumn too, as well.
There was the holiday.
Pavilion, 2 at the beach, 1 at the Autumn boat ramp and 1 at the spring boat ramp. Is that all of them?
Yeah.
I thought, okay. Thought there were more than that. So the company we use now, One Stop, I think,
First up.
First Stop. Have we had a good, have they been, do we have any reason?
They are good, clean facilities. All weather we've had, they weren't so good. A lot of people use them. There's a couple others out there, O'Neill's, don't have experience with that. But as far as I know, First Stop's the only company that power washes them every time they clean them.
I will say this about Power Stop. Over 4th of July weekend, got calls that the porta potties were like loaded and made a call and they did show up that morning and
Yeah, great service.
cleaned them
So do
up.
we need to look elsewhere or do we think their prices are competitive?
You go through the process, but I think you'll end up with choice. We just want
We want value, not the lowest price. We want
Right.
value. If you guys think they're doing if you think they're doing a great job and they're not twice as expensive as anyone else.
I think they're a little pricier.
I will say this just to bring up an option, and I'm not sure who it was, but the Sophies are when the card games, and everybody drove around and got different cards for your poker run. The Sophies, Frank, they had 2 porta potties and they said that they didn't say what they were, but very, very reasonably priced from what I can remember compared to.
Does anybody know John Mosley?
Who?
John Mosley?
John?
One reason I asked Frank Sullivan about that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Right?
And Frank said, I don't know, John Mosley took care of it for me.
Is he
If anybody
is he
knows
a
John Mosley,
Braintree person?
Yeah, he's the one that was over the golf cart stuff originally.
He what?
He was over like the golf cart group or whatever,
Okay.
came the events group.
I would think Tim Falkerson probably knows him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If-
yeah, he does.
He's very popular.
Yeah, he's- yeah.
John Mosley is very popular.
I've heard of that.
I'm Mosley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they seem to be very nice restrooms and were very inexpensive compared to some other folks that they had looked at.
But it was a 1-day thing, whereas we're having a great experience.
Yes.
What?
Right.
I will say, I mean, all last year the ones at the boat ramp, great.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not getting charged twice of what somebody else would charge us, but I think we ought to see what else is out there, but I'm not in a hurry to make any changes.
You gotta
If,
Gregson, you're gonna get a service from, they are the cleanest.
okay,
And, you know, again, all weather, seems like everybody uses all weather. But we had a real bad experience.
Okay,
Did they not?
In the end,
What happened? Did they-
in the end, they just got really lazy. And they couldn't get them in if there was a problem. But after they left, it was clean.
Yeah.
They weren't very good.
I've been impressed with the ones at the beach. I've been there when they came to clean them, they spray them and I mean, they do a pretty thorough job.
And they do a lot of extra, they.
And I'm not looking to change by any means. I just want to make sure that we're
Well,
being good stewards of the community's money.
I'm gonna qualify the Fourth of July statement that I said. Got calls that the toilets were overflowing and they were pretty gross. And you would have thought they would have come the next day with the volume of people that we have and should have known that they should come to clean them. My wife went down, started cleaning it out. And I had called and they showed up like an hour or so later and then took care of it, but. You're gonna be on the phone calling them around the 5th of July, basically, versus them automatically showing up.
They have
Okay.
a way of doing it, they'll come and they'll drop off the extra one, like on Thursday or Friday morning, of the holiday weekend. Another whole clean. And then it will be as good as it can be. I mean, we could have a line of 6 of them, but you pay for it.
Yeah.
The more you got, the cleaner they're all gonna be.
Yeah.
The
Do we
problem
have
was all of.
Do we have
everything's
like
coming up
an-
to the top,
an evergreen contract or do we have
You're in the contract.
do we have a contract that we haven't signed it yet this year
I
though?
don't think so. We haven't signed
And when do we typically put the porta potties
it.
out?
So it should be April 1st to October 31st.
Okay, we need to get on this then. All right, anybody feel like calling porta potty companies? I'll do it if not, otherwise, or let's coordinate it, we'll split up the work, divide and conquer. And let's get a list of, we heard a couple of names, do you remember the names? Anybody?
All weather. R&R, seen them down here, but they're based up like in Woodsville. I'm not sure what their shows are.
They advertise a lot on the radio.
There's O'Neill's.
This who does all ours.
R&R,
Yeah, the jobs.
do they have a good experience with them?
Seems like,
Well, I think we're happy with what we have, let's just make sure we're not,
And they're pretty low.
yeah, I'd rather support a local
Who's those
business.
Who did they have at Sophie's?
We'll find out.
There was an odd company that bought out porta potties and it's like, forget what, like which is that out or I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. Beach party is. I don't know. Just looking at, just looking at their equipment, it's. I don't know.
Well, Mark, we probably ought to do this
Yeah.
this week.
Better than nothing.
is
We'll call some,
the construction that's going on there has to be porta potties out there, is that pretty much R&R?
Well, we use R&R because they're union-based company, has to be a union-based company, but they're on every job site in St. Louis. Guy on the spot, like, no longer exists.
Well, that's another company, right, Johnny on the spot?
I haven't seen him in years, but
a small or local company, we're probably gonna get more personal service and. I mean, we don't have any reason to change, right? We're not upset with them. We just want to make sure that we're not getting charged twice what we would somewhere else. Let's do some calls and then if we don't find anything different, then we just move ahead with the contract we have.
Anytime I've ever talked to them, you can tell they care.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
responsive, definitely.
All right. All right, that's what I have. But anybody else have things? Does anybody in the community have?
Have you shared with us what the budget is for Lakes and Beaches?
It's in the budget for it was in the board budget. I don't have that notebook with me.
Just to that information though.
Just some range, just some range, how much?
It should be on the.
Yeah, it's passed out on the budget. I don't know what the total is. No, 60. I don't know. I'm not gonna mislead you. Yeah. No, it's more than that because we spend 50 on chemicals and other 10 on,
Shouldn't that be on the POA website?
yeah, I'm just trying to think what all is included in lakes and beaches.
But I highly doubt.
I don't think I've ever seen it on the POA website.
I think it's in the balance sheet, the profit loss and all the budget that we get at the. Yeah, it's on those papers that are out there.
Profit and loss
Yeah.
and your balance sheet is what's usually out there for board meetings, not the actual budget.
Okay.
that Says
This is how much money we've spent, not this is how much money we're saying.
we're planning on spending.
Well, what we're looking for is 100,000 and then for beaches 50 for this, so much for that, so much, right?
Well, yeah, with the two lakes and beaches.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
one
oh,
number,
the umbrella.
And then you all.
Hello,
know,
oh.
we're gonna do this for fish stock, and we're gonna do this for this and this for.
Right,
pork.
so I gotta get going, so.
Sand.
Wait for dinner, Tom.
I'm sorry, what?
That's what we spent. So it doesn't have what we spent last year, the lakes and beaches, which was the.
Yeah.
You know, Linda just brought something up, about sand for lakes and beaches. I don't know how long it takes for that process to happen, or if there's, needs to be some put back out there again, or anything like that. I don't know.
I had a conversation with Tom about that and you've been managing the sand ordering and.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's taken care of. We
Okay.
don't, you don't need any, you need anything from us?
We'll just talk and get approval, and
Okay,
you'll know what's going on, and, you know, there's generally 8 to 10 dump loads. Coming from,
Arch. okay. Do we need to make
And
a,
then, and then I need to know how much we can afford.
okay?
And it also involves a rental schedule.
Okay. I think, but do you anticipate a big change from last year?
Well, trucking fees have gone up considerably.
Sure.
I mean, just, well, since 2019, it just exploded, but even year to year, they've gone up a little bit more every year. And that's the cost, that's basically the cost.
Fuel.
Sand is $6 a ton, you know?
Oh, okay. It's just getting it here? All right, I don't know, Steve, does that need do we need to make a recommendation to the board for that? It's a budgeted item to
Should be
the,
budgeted item, I think.
but I think even if it's over a certain dollar amount, it has to get board approval every year. Do you know in the past, has it needed that?
If it's a budgeted item, does that be approved? No, it's already in the budget, I don't think so. If you need to increase it, it has to be approved by a significant amount. No, it's already in the budget.
Okay. Well, I'll get with you and I'll figure out how much money we have
And
and,
we do it first, middle part of May, that gives it a chance to settle down. And,
Okay.
you know. But we won't.
I'm sorry, I don't know the total number, but I'll find out.
Closer to the holiday, the better.
After the heavy
If
rain.
we get a heavy rain, we
After the
lost
heavy
50%. The breaks your heart.
And somebody had suggested that we used sand that has been used for seawalls and whatnot, but it's a different kind of sand. It's not, yeah, that's what I understand. That is not the sand we want at the beach. It would be great if we could do that, but it's not the sand we
Well,
want.
It is white sand. And it's the same sand that's at the volleyball court.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
But it's not the same as what we have at the
Same
beach.
because it got donated from Tully Winchester's project.
Yeah, is it
But-
the same or no?
I don't. You know, honestly, I don't know, but I do know, you don't really know what you're getting with it. Is the thing.
So can I circle back for a second here? So 8 to 10 truckloads a year. Sand's going where?
Into the lake.
We're talking about dredging,
Not, we're not talking about dredging sand.
but,
Or-
no, I mean, but we
or the
started
dam.
that conversation with dredging.
Well, actually, quite a bit of it blows into the camp.
Okay.
Yeah. I think wind erosion for soil, like for farmland in Missouri and Iowa, wind erosion is harder on ground than water erosion.
Okay.
It blows away.
Like Brick Lake, so.
Brown,
That's kind of.
just Mississippi sand. Stays put. People like the white sand.
Just wear your flip flops.
Well, in the event that we have to make a recommendation to the board because of, even though it's a budgeted item and it hasn't increased, can I get a motion in a second and approval to do that? Just because it sounds like it's something that needs to happen.
Really be one phone call to find out how much.
Okay. But everyone agrees with moving forward with our current
Make
stand.
to do it, sure.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Anybody, thank you. Those opposed, hearing none, it carries. All right. You guys have anything for us other than Iran? Yeah,
On the dredging, the hard dredging. Don't we have sewer pipe in the bottom of our lake?
We do,
Is that a concern?
it is.
I don't know if I wanna take that risk.
Well, yeah, so before we do anything, we'd have to get a map and mark off where they are. If they're doing mechanical dredging. So the hydraulic dredging is less of a risk, but they still said they would want to know where they are marked.
Okay, with the hydraulic dredging, you still have an auger,
That's, yeah,
okay, and it's still chomping up stuff. Then what are you gonna do with the spoils? You gotta get rid of the spoils, and you gotta mix with water. What are you gonna do with that?
yeah, that's what I talked about. There's filtration methods. You build a basin, you do these filtering bags. Or you do a mechanical filtration. Water goes back to the lake. The sediment stays.
So the water goes back to the lake really muddy? I'm worried about a fish kill as well.
Yeah,
It don't take much mud for a period of time to do a fish kill.
So-
Especially
These are my concern.
they,
I might want to add.
they do it for a living and we talked about fish kills, so they don't have a problem with fish kills.
Okay,
but
all
yes,
right,
they
as
do.
long as it's being addressed, that's cool. And then as far as the scanning of the entire lakes,
yeah,
I'm really kind of in for, okay, if we get them all scanned, we might save $1,000. But you also might lose a lot of money because we don't go with them. I'd rather just go with one lake, spring, I'm not spring, what's the one that's the worst?
summer.
Summer. Yeah, just do a whole process on
Well-
the lake and see what we get out of it. You get good results, bring it to the people.
Wouldn't bother me to use one lake as a beta site and see what happens, but
Is that gonna have to be 5 years though?
Well,
I don't know if we,
No, they,
I think if-
Indian Lake, they already have seen results in 2 years.
I think if we
Seen
see
results.
action right away,
5
we,
years is long term that
Yeah.
he wanted to go with the contract. He said, like you say, you're getting results in 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
I think for scanning, once they get the equipment on site, it's probably gonna be just as cheap to do the whole thing.
Well, we
Instead of
don't know
having to come back 4 times.
let's wait and see what the bid is. We know what the bid is for Biosys to do the whole, do all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And that includes the, like the biometric analysis of the muck and whatnot. Let's see what other things are before we move forward.
Yeah.
and then as far as dredging the sand, we've tried that before in different places and it stinks so bad for so long. People will not use the beach. It's got a bunch of decay in it. It's not a good idea.
Well, that, I mean, really, how much is that compared to the whole lake?
I'm just saying, the question,
Right.
yeah,
It's
like-
we've tried it and it's very bad.
can I answer, your question about the pipes that are underneath of the
Yes.
lakes? My understanding is that there are designs out there somewhere that show where those pipes are.
There are, we have maps.
So-
But the other thing is, and I'm not an engineer, but I would think there's so much water pressure, the hydraulic pressure. If we ruptured one of those,
Oh.
if we ruptured one of those pipes, I think the water from the lake would rush into it more than anything
For a
would,
period of time.
yeah.
Didn't they say
Because once
that
it
the pipe-
levels out, you're just coming right back up in there.
And then it would probably take about 4 years to bring the water back. After Walking down.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do, I mean, that's another reason not to do mechanical dredging. I agree. I mean, the whole, this bio dredging sounds like the deal, but good God, it's expensive and I mean,
It's less expensive than dredging the lake
Yeah.
properly, so.
Well, he talked, his was about 4 million. And based off of Indian Lakes and 320 acres, and we've got about 200 acres. They're trying to get 1.5, so we get 2/3 of that, which would be 1 million. It's quite a bit different between 4 million and 1 million, even though 1 million's a lot of dollars.
yeah, but we
I
can't,
mean-
we can't sell any of this until we have more data. We need to.
I don't think it's 4 million.
Well, 1.8,
Yeah.
1.8 on the low end based off of the numbers.
I agree that it's cheaper. The cheaper route is bio treatment, and then you eliminate needing to do any of your chemicals, lake chemicals in the lake.
In the long run, I don't know if you do the first year or two,
First year, probably not. Second year,
probably have to use.
I think, yes.
We probably have to use chemicals for a year or two.
No, they said.
He said,
No,
He said spot.
chemicals are done once you start the bio.
How much are you spending on chemicals every year?
it's 50,000.
50 grand without Spring Lake.
How long you been doing that?
Yeah, I mean,
We could have paid for it, you know.
we've paid for dredging, you
Yeah.
I'm all
know,
for
but,
bio treatment, and I'm all
but at the
for
same time, we would have had,
way to
we would
find-
have had a mess on our hands waiting for 20 years for it to be dredged, you know, which is kind of,
The only good thing about bio dredging, whoever it is, it would be a continual process
right.
to always keep it. Once it hits a level, as long as we pay the electric bill for the pumps, it's gonna keep it down, right?
Well, it's air compressors. It's not pumps, it's air compressors.
Yeah.
It's air compressors to run a diffuser at the bottom of the lake.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it requires electricity to
Yeah.
do, to run a compressor, so.
Yes, absolutely.
go ahead, Linda.
You made a comment, something about maybe private donations. Was that a haha? Or
No,
is that a
no,
Serious thing that people.
That's a serious thing, yeah.
Can you share
um,
more?
I'm sure I can talk about it. Basically, to do the same thing that Cuba did. It's they started a corporation that's a 501c3.
But-
The subdivision on there is a 501c4.
Is that what
People
we
come-
are?
Yes, people come up and basically donate the money, pledge the money to the 501c3, and I'm gonna call it RAP, Rain Tree Action Program or Project or you know, whatever, but let's call it RAP. For that RAP program, people donate money in and basically we just give the money then to either Rain Tree and or the management system company that does the bio dredging.
But
Whatever.
before we do that, we have to get approval from our lawyers and CPAs and whatnot. We can't put the entire community at risk.
And but they do that, why can't we do that?
I mean, not everybody claims everything on their taxes too, and you may get audited, you may not, but if you do, you could potentially be in trouble, and that's why I'm saying
And
we cannot serve as agents of the community. We have to let
I
our,
agree, in my investigation. There's not a problem, as long
Well-
as the money is not used for individual use. That I give $10,000 or $100,000 to get bio dredging. But somebody here takes that money and uses it for themselves, then you got the tax.
there may be a way to do it, but we're not
So
gonna.
they've done it, so we should be able to figure out
How to do
I
it,
think that's
exactly.
the point.
Well,
So-
it's how much risk, it all comes down to how much risk you want to take. you
I'm
know,
in process. I have an account looking at how to complete the appropriate IRS paperwork as we speak. I'd love to talk to somebody that has already done this type work, because I think there should be about 5 or 6 people that are on the board if it happens. And it would require at least 2, if not 3 people to sign off on any checks that are spent to keep everything
Okay, but-
kosher.
And who's gonna select these 5 to 6 people on your new board for this new corporation?
You want to be on it?
No.
I mean, you know,
So but I'm just saying, we're not agents of the community, so we can't,
Well, she asked, so.
we can't do anything legally. We can't do anything legally binding. We can't take action. We don't need to call our accountant, let the board, function. You can go ahead and do all the research you want. That's great, but we can't take any action and put the community at risk.
Couldn't he do it all on his own?
Yes,
as
I
an
can, and yes,
individual?
I am.
But I don't know that he could give money to the community without putting the community at risk.
Yes.
But he can
So
pay the
Indian
community.
Lake has their pledge system, they call it, for 3 years. They're behind collecting their pledges. So money that is owed to buy whatever the company is. When they don't have enough money coming in because the pledges aren't being received, then is the community held responsible? I mean, that's the kind of thing that needs to be thought through.
Sure.
Because I have the letter here that went out to the people that owe their pledges for the last 3 years.
At
Indian
Indian Lights?
Yes,
Cool.
it's Indian Lakes. Well, it's not the letter that went, it went to anybody that was in their system.
They figured that they've gotten about 40% responses of their, out of 100% of the people that live there.
Well, the voluntary thing would be,
Right,
They said there were 1,000 families, they've got 304 that pledged for the 3 years. And they're hoping at the end of the 3 years that they will be able to increase fees on other things to make the payments so they don't have to continue a pledge system. But they're already not getting all their pledges.
Right.
It is something to consider, because you have nothing to hold those people to.
Right. Yeah, if you make it a voluntary system,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, we can look at it, but that's why I'm interested in maybe starting with one lake and seeing what happens. Continuing to use chemicals as much as I would rather we didn't. And kind of have a beta site, a test site, and maybe compel the community to say, yeah, this is something we should all do.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear the idea. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I do know that in the past, I've asked, can't we donate money for different things? And I know that whatever you just said, we're a such and such C, and they're a such and such C. There is some cap about how much donated money comes into that puts our status at risk.
And Lori Haller is the one that has
Lori
that
Haller,
answer.
yeah. She explained it to me one time, it's like, okay.
Well, I'd love to
She's
speak
asked
to
that
her.
question more than once.
Oh, John Willett knows the answer
Yeah,
too,
John.
because I just talked to him at the Clean Flow meeting. The number's somewhere around $140,000 or something like that.
60% of the money that comes.
60% of the money has to come from the assessment.
Got it.
So we have the assessment, we have all the
Well, then you can easily,
stickers and all that stuff that we get money for, not the beach stickers, the boat stickers.
Why not the big ship?
You get more money from the boats, I'm just.
probably, you could count all of that, but it still puts a cap on how much we could.
So, and he said the number's right around 140.
That they could accept about 140,000 in donations without putting us at risk. Got it. Cool. That's a lot of money.
And people can't claim that as a donation though, because we're
Right.
not or whatever, we don't, that, they can't do that.
Mhm.
Is that per year,
That would be per year, yeah.
Where you build up a fund,
That's a lot of money, 140K.
the dredging cost that would be,
1.2.
Good, whatever, I mean,
there's
there's
the 40, you're not gonna be-
other things people want to donate money for, like a playground too, so I mean, it's. But we can do it, so we finally got the answer that we can, because it always was no, 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 no.
Right.
And we need to work to figure out how to do things instead of just saying no.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't move forward with it. I'm just saying we can't bind the community in any way. And there may be a limit to how much we can.
But I think if you move in parallel and.
Sure.
If it gets there and yes, then it all meshes together. If you get there and it doesn't, well, you just don't collect any money and.
Right.
You don't give money away, you know.
Okay, what else? Anybody have anything else they'd like to say or ask?
I do think with the bio dredging, as that soot goes down, You create more of an oxygenated area, which is gonna probably eliminate your dinks. They're gonna have more room to run. That's about-
Where's the food coming from though? The shad have been killed by the pesticides being put in there, kills the plankton, the shad don't have any food, so now the shad are gone, so now the bass don't have anything to eat.
That's why we don't go with any more herbicides or any of the poisons that we put in there from the algicides and all that, that all goes away.
Yeah.
And then once you start feeding this lake and get that oxygen level more, you start creating the fish chain that these fish can eat off of and grow bigger.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
That's,
So it's gonna take everybody having these conversations with other people in the community. But it's not gonna happen overnight. I mean, we're not gonna go dump a bunch of shad in our lakes right now when they don't, I mean, we get the sum gain is nothing, right?
yeah.
Let's
Spending
put the
money.
money in grass carp and let's start getting the environment that we need over time. That's what it's gonna take from everybody is talking to your neighbors, talking to people you boat with and say, hey, we're looking at a long range plan to make our lakes as healthy as they could be.
What did they say that, how many that they should put in, we should grass carp every year after the initial?
They just said he should have 3 per acre and he said, and then do it, cycle it every 2 or 3 years, do that.
Now,
And so
how muddy is it gonna make these lakes with those bottom feeders stirring up everything?
Well, the grass carp are eating the vegetation.
Yeah.
Right, well, I've heard that, but I've also heard that they eat everything they can before they resort to the vegetation.
Okay.
I put them in places they haven't done anything, but I don't know if I didn't have enough or what the deal is.
Well, from what I've read, actually having a little bit of stain in your lake is a good thing
Oh, yeah.
because if our water is like,
It's crystal clear.
and guess what? Sunlight goes right through it all the way to the shore. It's
Right.
actually better to have your lakes a little stained.
Oh, yeah. Nutrients,
yes.
you know.
Some
Yeah.
companies talked about, or do add dyes to the lake. I don't know what it looks like, but to block block the UV.
I've seen it before. It's pretty nice. But if you look, you know, it's not.
But the 125 acre lake would be a bit much, he said. To do that.
To dye it.
Yeah. But the smaller ones might be a way to, I don't know what the lake management guy says, you might ask him.
That's pretty cheap.
But aquamarine, that's what he talked about. Yeah. Asked if we did dyes, I said, I don't know.
Okay. All right, so Mark and I will get on the phone with some porta potty places and just make sure that we're not, and as long as we're not, I don't think any further action needs to happen unless we find out that we're getting taken to the cleaners.
And we have them from April 1 to October.
31st.
And there's a total of 5 or 6, 5, right?
4 regular, 1.
One handicap.
I think they call it wheelchair accessible now. That's the,
Just excessive.
I'm just trying to be appropriate.
Call me Dave.
And extra regular one on each, the free hollow.
And what?
One extra at the beach on the free hollow.
Only one.
Memorial Day, Labor Day and Fourth.
I mean, so far, hey, if you want 6, you'll have cleaner units.
I'm not at the beach. Happens maybe.
And then I'll ask Lake Management about grass carp charge. You already know.
I was gonna call Sprayville and Nemo.
If you'll call them, please
I'll
do.
call them tomorrow and I'll speak to the text and let you know.
Please do.
Might not be till 9 o'clock.
If we can get the similar cost from Lake Management and we
Yeah.
choose to go with them for chemicals, and here's what I'm thinking is if they have chemicals that Dave Tucker is okay with, then we go to we move to Lake Management for our lake treatments and consider the bio dredging for summer, winter, or both. Sound reasonable? All right.
Well, I'm gonna throw more things back out there. So, right now it's around $7,600 for Clean Flow to come in and do that. You're gonna speak to Lake Management and they come back at 12,000. are we gonna wait to meet again next month? The first Monday to bring this back up and talk about it, or?
No,
Is the, you know? is
We'll
the
go forward
trigger gonna be
BIOS.
pulled?
we'll go forward with Biosys unless we find out that we feel that lake management's a better,
And
Yeah.
like,
And I would-
management say $6,000 and they do the same thing, will the trigger be pulled, you know, to make something happen before a month from
I
now,
would
guess
send,
is what I'm asking.
yeah, I would send something to the committee electronically
And
to,
so the question that came up earlier is, does it matter who does that survey? Is it good for anybody then?
right,
And do we own the survey results
right,
regardless? Because that's good information for us no matter what.
Right.
And no matter who we go with.
and hopefully we would get all the information we needed, and I think we just need to look around and see what it costs other places before we spend $7,600. If they're all very similar, then I don't have an issue with going with with Biosys, but, or I, either one, but if lake management wants to give it, if they're gonna sell us fish and it's the only company that said, yeah, we'll treat a lake that waters a golf course that I've found, and if they'll do that, then I think we should develop a relationship.
Marine said they would as
Oh, really?
Did I?
well.
It's-
When I called all those lakes that when you were over the committee, none of them had problems treating their lakes and watering golf courses.
Right, I know,
It was a unique problem for
That
us.
is,
yes.
that is so different from what I've heard
I know.
and what I've seen, but that's why we're doing all this, is we're starting over and moving forward. Okay. All right, move for adjournment.
Yeah.
Everybody good with adjourning?
Yep.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you for attending.